Welcome to the Manifestation Lab. This is your host, Kelly Howe. From the grounded science to the mystical and unseen, we're investigating this big experiment we call life and finding what really works when it comes to manifesting a life that sets your heart and your soul on fire. Welcome to the lab. Hello, welcome back to the Manny Lab Pod. How have y'all been? I've been on break. I've been busy stuffing my face with all the sugar and drinking all the things and really enjoying just some time off of worrying about what I'm eating and what I'm doing. And I think that's so good for the soul sometimes, but I'm ready to jump back into 2023, get my life together and clean up my nutrition, really help my body and my mind get aligned and excited about this year. And I hope that you guys are doing the same. Today, my guest is Tia Ress. This conversation is so beautiful. Tia is a motivational speaker. She's a mentor. She helps women in leadership make aligned decision. And she says that she really bridges the gap between the unconscious and conscious with the age of her spiritual gifts. She is a talented psychic. She is a tarot reader. And since we recorded this conversation, I believe it's been a couple of months ago now, I was able to schedule a reading with her, and I can tell you, so good, so good. If you need help with just finding clarity in your career, this woman can really help you out. Tia did a reading for me and really was able to see directly into some of the challenges that I've had over the last couple of years, how it was currently affecting my business, which was so annoying. Not that she's annoying, but it was annoying because I had already thought I worked through so much of this stuff. But apparently I had some kind of trauma and some energy that still needed to be healed and cleared. And we were able to do that in that session. She was able to look into one of my past lives. I don't know that she does that in every reading, in every session with her. I don't even know if she calls it a reading, but for my session, she was able to look back and find a past life experience that was directly affecting relationships and my business now. And we were able to process through a lot of that in that session. And I felt so much better afterwards. She also was able to see that I was getting ready to launch a big project. And she said, I think that she asked, when are you wanting to launch this? And I was like, in a couple of weeks. And she said, I don't see this happening until February. And of course, lo and behold, after technology glitches and me running out of steam and the holidays, getting sucked into the holiday vortex, it just wasn't aligned for me to launch it so quickly. So I am excited to announce that the Align and Shine membership program is finally going to launch in February. February 1st, we're going to get going on that. And if that is something that you guys are interested in, you'll want to head over to my website and look up the Align and Shine program. Really, this is a program for people that want to do three things. There's really three ways we can use tapping for transformation. Number one, we can incorporate it in as a daily practice and start to make this something that we just a go-to tool when we feel emotionally overwhelmed, if we feel stressed, if we feel fear, right? Just starting to slowly incorporate that in as a daily practice, or even as using it as a short meditation while you are focusing on the positive, focusing on a positive future. The tapping sort of just ramps that up, okay? So the second way that we start to use that is as an investigative tool. And we look at our life and go, you know what, that thing, this pattern, this experience that keeps happening is really triggering me, and I want to get curious about it. And we use the tapping to both work through the trigger that's coming up. So however that's physically activating it and however it's emotionally activating us, right? So we clear the emotional charge and we start to help the body to feel safe. And then we also use it as an investigative tool to go, when have I felt like this before? So this is the next level, going deeper with what's going on in our day-to-day life and how we can investigate and start to go back and go, okay, now I'm going to use the tapping on this the last time I felt the same kind of thing. And it just takes it one layer deeper. Now, the next layer deeper after that is to go, okay, what are the patterns that I've had my entire life? How might these be connected to ancestral energies or past life energies? Or is there some sort of, deep thing hidden in my past that I haven't necessarily addressed and I haven't processed. And we go that next level deeper and we go, okay, how can I look at some of these lifelong patterns? When did I experience this before? Maybe do some past life work, maybe get in and do the deep resetting through looking at ancestral energies. And the Align and Shine program is going to do all three. So it's going to be great for people that want to start to incorporate tapping. There's going to be ways to start to incorporate, day-to-day easy ways to tap. And then we're also, once or twice a month, we're going to do what I call deep dives and also what I call remodeling processes. So rather than using tapping as oh my gosh, I'm feeling emotionally overwhelmed and I'm going to tap that down, and to have to do that all the time, these remodeling processes go way back and go deep into the subconscious to actually rewire the nervous system. As we release the emotional charge that's been in there for a long time, when you use tapping at the same time, it actually starts to reset the nervous system so that when you encounter that stressful thing in the current moment, you don't get triggered in the same way. That's why I call it stress remodeling, because you're actually rewiring your system so that you are more easy breezy and things don't trigger you as much. Now, I always like to remind people this isn't like giving yourself a lobotomy. It's not like nothing is going to trigger you. But what happens is you are in the present moment and you're able to have emotional flexibility and react to what is happening right now, rather than something coming up that maybe would only activate your nervous system and emotional charge at like a 2 or a 3, but instead it goes to an 8 because it actually reminds you of something that happened when you were 10 years old that never really got processed and is triggering all kinds of old limiting beliefs about who you are and your self-worth. Okay. So I know that that's a lot to process, but what I want to say is the Align and Shine membership is going to be for all 3 layers. We're going to do all 3. So for the people, specifically for coaches, healers, entrepreneurs that are wanting to go next level this year, take that project, whatever it is that you've had on your plate, that you've had on your mind, not even on your plate, it's just been in your head, right? For like a year or 2, maybe 3, 5 years. We're going to take that thing and we're going to start taking steps towards it this year. And we're going to uncover the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. We're going to uncover the sabotage programs that are making you get in your own way. We are going to rewire the nervous system to be able to stand confidently in a place that used to create overwhelming fear and overwhelming emotional content, right? So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be strength training the mind, body, and spirit so that you can push out of your comfort zone and take courageous action. So whether it be starting a podcast, starting the YouTube channel, losing 10 pounds, leaving the job, leaving a relationship, whatever the thing is, we can call it a project, but whatever the thing is that you've been thinking about, but you haven't actually taken steps towards, this is what we're going to do this year in the Align and Shine program. We are going to boldly set goals and work through the resistance that comes up, because you and I both know we've been through coaching programs. They're well and good. They can tell you, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this. And maybe you've purchased 1 or 2 or 3 or 20 different coaching programs, and you start to recognize that a lot of them are saying the same thing, and somehow you still can't take action. You still can't get yourself to break through and actually do the things. It's not your fault, right? It's something deep inside of your subconscious that is getting in the way and throwing on the brakes, creating confusion, creating overwhelm, and likely inside there's a part of you that is trying to distract you and pull you off track. I know, because I live this life too, and I want to help you get where you want to go, okay? So if that sounds like you, if you're somebody who starts working towards something and suddenly you're just like tired all the time, that can be a sabotage program. That can be a way that your body shuts you down, so that because there's so much underlying fear of failure that you shut yourself down before you ever start taking steps towards it. And then after enough time, you just kind of forget and move on, forget about that project you were working on. We're going to go find that stuff and figure out what's really going on. Okay. So maybe your project this year is to create more intimacy with your partner, right? Like maybe you want to have better sex. Maybe you want to have more connection. Maybe you want to, have more physical touch. Maybe you want to have a weekly date night. And for some reason, you guys haven't been able to carve that out. That's what we're going to do this year. We're going to figure out what's getting in the way, why you can't make it happen. And we're going to reset your system so that you can start to do things. If you're somebody who has a really hard time setting boundaries, oh, I hear ya. I've been there. It still comes up for me. That is a nervous system issue. Have you ever thought about that? Yeah. I mean, if setting boundaries was easy, we'd all be like, oh, I learned about that. I know I need to set a boundary. I need to not let that person do that anymore. But then we go back to it over and over and over again, despite how many times we promise ourselves that we're not going to do that. Why? Because there's a nervous system reaction that comes, and it's usually fear. We say no to a person, and then we are flooded with guilt. And it's not just a mental thing. That can happen too, but it's a physical, icky, nasty, yucky guilt feeling, and it feels so god-awful terrible. And underneath it, there's beliefs that are telling us that we're a bad person, that we're selfish and all these things. And so it physically and mentally feels so bad that we fall back into the same program. Not this year. We're breaking all the boundaries inside of ourselves so that we can start breaking boundaries. Well, not breaking them, start setting boundaries. Actually breaking boundaries too, right? We're going to be like running the race and going farther than we've ever gone before. So I'm really excited about it, as I'm sure that you can tell. And I'm also super excited about our guest today. Today, I'm speaking with Tia Ress. And honestly, if you are in a position of leadership and you need a little bit of help bringing some of that unconscious to the conscious, Tia is your woman. You can find her at Tia Ress Official, TIARESSOFFICIAL. Hopefully you know how to spell official, but if you're like me, your spelling sucks and you need a little help sometimes. You can also find her at www.tiaress.com. Again, it's TIARESS.com. And this is a great conversation. We talk about, one of the biggest things we talk about is normalizing walking away. Tia recently left an engagement, and we get into all the ins and outs of the kind of courage it took to walk away from a relationship like that, the difficulties, the triumphs, the celebrations. We also talk about evolved leadership and the power of vulnerability and actually bringing the emotions through in a very authentic state and moving away from the outdated leadership of just stuff it and overpower it, right? We also talk about human design and how that has drastically transformed my family and my clients, and also how it's transformed her life and why we both are obsessed with it. And then we also talk about manifesting love. It is a really great conversation. I think you all are really going to enjoy it. And again, if you're interested in Align and Shine, we get going February 1st. So stay tuned for that. If you're not on my newsletter, you may want to head over to kellyhowe.co and scroll, I think it's all the way at the bottom, and get on that newsletter so that you get all the updates for the upcoming events. All right, here we go. I know that you are an empowerment coach, you work with women in leadership and use your spiritual gifts, but maybe just give me an idea of what does the session with you look like?
So it's kind of crazy because when I started this, I didn't realize that I would attract so many women in leadership. It kind of developed into that. Like the people that ended up finding me were all women who are super great at their careers and love what they do, or they just have these massive careers and don't know why they're doing it anymore. And they need like help with their love lives. It's like a lot of that, which when I started doing this work, it wasn't because I knew I was going to do this work. I actually came from the corporate world working with women. And when COVID happened, I ended up doing all my friends who knew I had the gifts that I have, the spiritual, the mediumship, all that, were like, you have to go see Tia. Tia will know what to do with you, like what you need to do. And I was like, okay, great. And then it just showed me who I meant to work with, essentially. And so that's how the empowerment and the self-trust and how my sessions developed out of that was I wanted to work with women who weren't naturally victims. They were women who knew that they had something to give to the world, but just didn't know exactly what or how. So, and I'm spiritual, so I have a direct line to spirit. So I've lived like this for a long time. I thought it was normal. And so when I would tell people, they were like, what, how do you know this and that? And I'm like, how do you not feel that? Like, it was very weird for me to, meet people that aren't highly in tune or don't care or don't have the deep empathy. Like, I just didn't understand. I still don't understand people like that.
Yeah.
So
same.
in session, it really just, right. You know what like you get it. Like, it's very easy for people that are like us to be like, yeah, like, how did that person not like realize, like, so, using it as a work though, I never thought I would be doing this for work, to be honest with you. I just always did it within any job that I had, like helping people.
Okay.
Like, I loved it. I used to be like a sales trainer in makeup. So women would sit down with me, we'd talk makeup, but then it would always go into like, I know what I'm doing with my life. I want this, I want that. And they would like throw up on me. And so I would just be like, okay, all right. So, and then I would just channel, I think, every single time. So I'd have these women come back to me for makeup, but it was never for makeup. It was like they wanted to just talk to me. And so it was really flattering, but I never thought I would actually do this for work. So now my sessions are really just, I go in, I do a prayer, I connect with spirit, and I use all different modalities. So I use tarot, I use human design, I use astrology, I use channeling, whatever like that person needs. Like like all the tools. And we talked about Ainsley McLeod, right? So he's the only person that I've actually let me like read me. And it was so funny because he's like, the guides always say that you have it's almost like you have a toolkit, which is true, because everyone's like, well, what do you just normally use? I'm like, it really depends on who's in front of me. Session, I don't know anything about them. I don't Google them. I could care less who you are, to be honest. I care about helping you. And so whatever they need. So then sometimes if a loved one comes through, the session could go that route. I don't know until I'm literally sitting in front of the person what's going to come up, and I hold space for whatever it is. Okay. So it just kind of depends. Yeah. It's wild. I did not expect to be doing this. I still am surprised. You're hearing me talk about it, and I'm like, oof.
Yeah, I relate to so much of that. I mean, there's times when I still look at what I do and I'm like, how did I end up here? I mean, it's wonderful, but if somebody had told me that I would be doing this, and I specialize in tapping. So I don't know if you're familiar with EFT tapping. Have you done that at all?
I've heard of it. I've never done it myself. And I've some of the emails that I've gotten from you, like, and I've like read them, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know you're a transformational coach, from what I understand, but I don't know the EFT part.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Totally fine. But I mean, so, we tap on our body and we work through blocks, and I also read tarot, and I've started bringing that into my sessions very reluctantly, I would say, but the more I do that, the more aligned I feel. And anyway, I would never have guessed that I would be doing what I'm doing either. And sometimes I'm like, if I feel so shocked about where I am now, like, where am I going to be in 10 years or 20 years? Like, what's still to come? It's really exciting. But I am curious. So you said you came from the corporate world. So what did that transition look like? How did you decide to take that leap into what you're doing now? And it sounds like you were already doing it in a different kind of fashion.
I was. I love that question you asked me, because I didn't choose it. I got laid off 3 times by the time I was 27.
Oh gosh.
So I just kept getting these awesome jobs that I thought I wanted, and then I'd get them, and felt very purposeless. Like, I didn't feel like I was doing the work I was supposed to be doing, but I was good at it. So I kind of stayed. And then the position 7 or 8 months later would go obsolete. Like, they would no longer have the position. So I was out of a job. So it was just always funny. It happened 3 times. And so then alongside COVID, I just was like, okay, well, there's nothing going on. I'm a makeup sales trainer, makeup, touching people's faces, all that. How can I do that now? Right? I can't. And then all these people started coming to me for readings. And I didn't advertise it. I didn't publicize it. I mean, only my close friends knew, but then they would tell their people. And then I was like, I got to start charging for this.
Right.
So that's kind of how it happened. It's not like it's not like, and because of the energy, like it takes, and you know this working with people, it takes a lot out of you. And especially if you're a mystic, like I'm hearing, I'm feeling, I'm seeing at all moments, I'm kind of bombarded when I'm with somebody, but, it just happened on accident, but I also don't believe in accidents. So it's like, I think the universe kept trying to like give me what I thought I wanted. And then it just like was like, boop, you actually need to be here. And it's happened a few times in my life. And it's funny, most recently it's happened with my previous relationship. Like I just broke off my engagement.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going through the same kind of crazy transition of like, I thought my life was going this way, but really now it's going this way. So,
oh my goodness.
you know,
well, that's a huge, yeah. So that's too like huge, you know, everybody going through COVID, obviously it was just such a huge transformation, whether we liked it or not, or knew it or not. I mean, it was just like so massive, but then you just split up with your fiance as well. And, so I've seen you on Instagram, you know, just share things about love and about manifestation. And there was something really beautiful in the questionnaire that I have people do before our podcast. And you were mentioning, you know, we split up and, oh, how did you say it? I thought it was on the tip of my tongue.
I remember doing it for you, but it was like a minute ago.
Yeah,
so
no. I just found it. So yeah, you said, I recently broke off my engagement and would love to inspire women to normalize walking away from what doesn't feel right anymore in love and career. So can you speak to that a little bit more? I mean, you're already talking about it, but I love that, like, normalize walking away. And I am such a huge advocate as well. Like, I just want to beat people over the head with that message sometimes, you know? I mean, that's not a very graceful way to say that, but it's true. Sometimes I'm like, it's okay to leave.
No, it's okay to leave, and it's okay to be honest about it. I think the problem with people that are in the spiritual world sometimes is like, you think spirituality is pretty, and it's not. It's not pretty. It's not fun. It's not sexy. The transformative part of being a spiritual person means that you are walking in spirit, meaning you're walking the talk of your soul. Like that's what it means. And so when I say normalizing walking away from things, it's because we're so taught in society to stay with things just because we started them, just because we thought we loved them, just because that was what our families wanted, or like our neighbors wanted for us, whatever it was, right? Our influences. And I'm just tired of it, because as somebody who just walked away from my engagement, I didn't walk away frivolously. You know, people are like, oh, you just broke it off in a day and that was it. And it's like, no, it's like, you transform within your relationships and you have to honor that transformation. And so I think ultimately, you know, I knew I wanted to be with him. I had like my eye on the prize kind of energy. I knew my next steps with my career and with my relationship. He wasn't ready, unbeknownst to me and to him by the time it came to it. 4.5 years in, it wasn't like, and that's why I still don't hold any hate or grudges or anything. Like, again, we're all on our own evolution and our own spiritual journey. And so you hope to grow with somebody, right? But the minute that it doesn't feel aligned, your job isn't to create logic around it. Your job is to answer the call. Mm-hmm. Your job is to figure out, is this for me anymore? And I think people just will sit there and be like, well, they're a nice person and they make great money, and I guess they're nice to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like they go through that whole, like, you're trying to reason, but like when you go back into your heart space, something doesn't feel right. I am the person that will give people the opportunity and shift. I see it in my work every day, but when I also see the truth, I can't ignore it. Mm. So when I walked away from my ex, it wasn't because I didn't love him. People that don't really know me or him well, or like have a lot of assumptions, right? It's not. It's because I had loved him so much. I had nothing else if he wasn't going to meet me there. Yeah. I had nothing. I literally was like, I gave you everything, literally everything. Mm-hmm. And you just weren't meeting it. Yeah. And that's okay. And like, and everyone's like, oh my God, like you're 32, like you wasted so much time. I get that response a lot too, right? Oh man. Oh girl, everybody's got their own conditioning. So I take it and I'm like, okay, I understand.
I'm like, don't project your shit on me.
No, seriously. I'm like, take it to somebody else, like not me, because I'll give it back. You know? Yeah, but I'll give it back to you. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I literally just felt like, I didn't waste any time. I followed my evolution. and where it led me. And I think that's where it's like walking away from things, whether it's your career or your relationship. I'm not saying do it casually. It's like, do it because there's something else calling you.
Yes.
And I do want to share this with you because I had this aha this morning, actually, which is so fitting for us, talking today. So I'm the kind of person that stays friends with my exes because I love people and I can respect and love people regardless of if we have a relationship that's romantic for 10 years or for 2 minutes. I don't care. If I love you as a person and I see your essence, it stays with me. And it's who I am. And my ex, he happened to call me, not the one that I just broke up with, this guy I dated maybe 5 or 6 years ago for 3 months, who like so soulmate connected, so like kindred spirits, And funny enough, when we dated, I had told him how much I loved California and he had never really been. But 2 years later, he ends up in California. And he's stayed there to a place that I had told him he needs to go visit. He lives there now. Okay.
Oh, wow.
He calls me yesterday and he goes, Tia, I am living your life. Like, you need to be here.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't said anything about your relationship. Like, he had no idea. Like, I told him, we broke it off. He's like, but I just know you. And I know that this is where you need to be, even if it's temporary, even if it's whatever. And, I had to realize today, from walking away from my engagement, all of these other doors have opened up, which I know are more aligned with me. Wow. I mean, and the universe and serendipity, it works that way. The day that me and my ex ended up breaking our engagement, I started looking at Airbnbs in California to just try living there. And a client of mine literally reached out to me and said, would you want to come in February and stay in my apartment?
Oh my gosh.
I need somebody to stay there because I have cats and I want to leave, but I just thought I'd offer it to you. And she sends me her address. And my favorite number is 29. And it's part of my birthday. 429 is my birthday. Her address is like 29, blah, 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 blah street in Santa Monica, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just so, I was like, whoa. So that's why we normalize walking away. It's because you don't know what's really actually aligned for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on board for all that. I feel like so many of us hold on to relationships, hold on to friendships, hold on to careers out of that ego space. And because it's like I should, like, I've put so much time into this and it's not the same, but I did have to walk away from a career that I loved. I worked labor and delivery as a nurse for 8 years. And I remember that, like, that love for that career and feeling like it felt like a divorce because it felt like I was leaving an abusive relationship, to be honest with you. It was like, I love this and I love what I do, but I feel like I was getting abused and it just wasn't lighting me up. And that decision was incredibly hard, but it was the same. It was like, once I made that decision, all these synchronicities just like lined up and started popping. And I mean, it was like that next level expansion just happened so fast because I had like broken through, but it's like the ego part of us. I think part of it is the loyalty vow, like that's wired in so deeply to us to be loyal to what we've done. And, anyway, I just appreciate you speaking to that. Cause that's like, I'm the hugest advocate for, if you don't like it, walk away. Like, let's do something else. And I don't say that in a flippant way. Like, I know how hard it is. You know how hard it is, but it's worth it. It's so worth it to have the courage to just say, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
And it's so hard. And it's like, okay, let's talk on that loyalty aspect that you talked about, right? Where you're like, we're so taught to be loyal and stay in something, right? And I would say I'm a very loyal person. And I'm sure you're the same because you're an old soul and you care about people. And to be a nurse, I think, is some of the most self-sacrificing kind of career that you can ever have. So I know that doing that for you wasn't easy.
Right.
I know that. And for me, when people, have questioned my loyalty, even to my ex and even to my previous career, it's like, loyalty is not conditional. Loyalty is based in truth. And if the truth no longer aligns with who you are and what you want, the loyalty will not align. It's just the reality. It doesn't mean you're not a loyal person. It's like, what am I being loyal to?
Right.
And so I think we're so quick to be loyal to others and society. Like, I mean, I come from a Greek community, and in so many times we see like, we don't get divorced, we stay married for 50 years. Like, that's just what we do. And it's like, that's great as long as you're not betraying your loyalty to yourself.
Right.
If you want to stay in a marriage for 50 years, I love that. Like, I am such a lover of love that like, that is what I would ideally want. Right. But not at my own demise. I'm not going to suffer so that this idea that people want is going to thrive. I don't care about the idea. I care about the truth. So I think for you, even leaving your job and being like, I love this, but I love me more is basically what you said.
Yep, exactly.
Like I'm so sorry, but I'm not. Because like that ultimately that you are who you stay loyal to.
Right.
You know, that's it. That's the end goal. And I wish people could just stop trying to tell us what the right thing in society is. There's no right. There really isn't. I have women that I teach and help that are, you know, married to people for 40 years and they're completely half of who they are. Mm-hmm. On one level, somebody would tell them, wow, good for you. You've been married 40 years. Yeah. And then you'd come to me and they get divorced and I'd say, congratulations.
Yeah.
Because I know the truth of that person, right? Like, you know what that person was experiencing versus what it's viewed as. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when you're more awake too. You know, it's like you can't ignore it. Like I couldn't ignore what I was feeling. Right. You know what I mean? I wish I could just stay asleep sometimes. I'm like, hell, I'm like, if I could just be a robot.
Right.
Great.
Just take the blue pill or the red pill and go back into the matrix and be like, I forget all of it. It's all fine.
You're like, okay. Mm-hmm. No, but like once you're awakened and once you're aware, that's why I tell people like the spiritual path is not for the faint-hearted.
I agree.
Not even for 5 seconds.
I agree.
If you want to grow and you want to shift, let's rock and roll, but it's not going to be easy. And I tell people too, when they work with me, I said, you came to me for a reason. Mm-hmm. It means you're ready to see some things. But I can't help you unsee them. And you're not, and I'm not going to bullshit you. Yeah. Like this is just not who I am. Like I'm not a love and light healer. I'm a reality person. Let's take the goodness of spirit and use it.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I mean, and I don't know
I'm
how you
right
do
there with,
work,
I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. And I would love for you to speak about that a little bit more, because that's kind of a soapbox for me too, is like, if you want to live a spiritual path and live finding alignment and continually tuning that and coming back to that alignment, it is not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, you know, and it's actually most likely not going to be. When you're really like, if you really want to break the mold of who you are and how you're operating, shit's going to get hard. And I know that like I've had people say, well, if you believe that's true, then that you'll manifest that. Okay. Well, I believe that's true as well. We have to be conscious of what we believe, but it just has been so clear to me through the years that there's such a spiritual bypass in the spiritual community, and this like keep the vibes high, you know, it's like, okay, I mean, I appreciate that sentiment. I really do, but I have just not personally found, and I've tried that path. I haven't found that the real transformation comes from ignoring the calling inside that's saying, I don't want to be in this job anymore. I don't want to be with this person anymore. This is no longer aligned. You know, I think it's really easy to turn the other direction and say, my life is great. It's wonderful. I have everything I need. And to just be ignoring the elephant in the room. So I would love for you to speak to that. Anything else that comes to mind as far as that? Because I just feel like it's such an important message.
You know, you said something that's so wise. It's spiritual bypassing is ignoring the elephant in the room. And the elephant usually is your real feelings, is the truth of how you feel. And people, especially, you know, now we're a little bit more awakened, but maybe 10 years ago, even people would always just do this thing where, yeah, I'm sad, but it's fine. You know, I just got this promotion. I should be happy or whatever. Right. Like they go into this and I'm just like, can you just be sad?
Yeah.
Like, can we just sit with the sadness? Yeah. Because I just want to sit with the sadness sometimes. And I'm a naturally very resilient person. And that's the one thing I have gratitude for. I am very resilient. And
yeah, let me ask you this, because I think we're cut from the same cloth in so many ways. But as far as that resilience goes, I think I've always had a gift for that as well. And it's interesting because I'm a total scaredy cat. Like I have a lot of fear, but I always kind of knew how to like tuck it down and like show up and be positive. Right. And so I'm curious, were you able to allow that emotion to move through? Like with that strong resilience, what I find is that a lot of, us leaders do have that ability. And part of that resilience is a skill set that says like, I'm just going to tuck that over here for now. Right. So I'm curious because a lot of my process has been learning how to emote again for exactly the reason that you said that, like, I believe that all the emotions are beautiful, but even aside from that, it's like, if we spend so much time getting so good at pushing it down that when that good stuff happens, that good emotion doesn't freely flow through us. Like it doesn't expand through us in the way that is possible because we have all that shit blocked in there from all those years of resiliency, which I wouldn't change for anything in the world. So I'm curious if you went through that as well.
Well, it's so funny. It's so funny. Resilience to me, so I think we have definitions of resilience. Like resilience to me is like, oh my God, I just went through the mud and man, I came out so happy versus I have the mud in the corner of my mind and I'm happy anyway. Do you see the difference? Like I think as leaders, we do tend to be, naturally, like we can cope, I think is probably a better word. But to be resilient to me is, man, I just dug my face in a pot full of shit and it was stinky and gross and I hated it. But then I lifted my head back up and I was like, it still smells like chocolate chip cookies. Like that sounds so strange, but you can still have both. And that I like the intensity of both. I haven't really muffled my emotions as much. I think it's harder for me people don't ask me about myself often. I'm always the one that is grabbing and holding space for other people. I have very close friends and I love my support system. That's not what I'm saying. It's just more of like, the way that I stay strong is simply because I think that's just how I am. I think it's just how you are. I think people that have been here lifetime after lifetime have a lot of that just ability to keep going and that faith of like, it's going to get better. We're going to be okay. Don't worry. I don't know if I've muffled any of my feelings because I cry by myself a lot. So it's not like, it's not I don't cry or I don't feel.
Sure.
I just am. I don't know. It hits me in moments and I let the moments pass and then it gets better. But I don't know, maybe and you can be reading this off of me, right? Because I don't feel like as healers and readers and people who are coaches and stuff like that, I think the funny part of it is I can't see myself that clearly.
Oh, right. Really None clearly. Of us can. We really want to, but it just doesn't work as well. I know.
Right. I don't see I see you more clearly than I probably see myself and I just met you. You know what I mean? And so, right. But you're probably also picking up on some stuff from me because I am very much a vault in some ways. That's why I think people trust me because I just like it all kind of stays with me. Yeah. But there are things that I don't openly talk about. I write about. Yeah. So I use it. I use my pain and I put it into my writing. Yeah. That's where I emote and that resilience and that ability to wake up and just be like, okay, we got to rock and roll. You know what I mean? I think comes from because I have my own place in sanctuary, Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. There's like different aspects of resilience. And I just, I'm like you. I also just kind of started attracting these really powerful women dealing with the same kind of things. And, it's just been really interesting to observe the patterns over the years. And it's like the people that I find that are so naturally good at sort of taking charge and taking the lead have a lot of, even the ones that are like, I had a great childhood are like, there's some interesting things to unpack in there because it just they were so good at being positive and kind of like showing up as that leader for the family that some of that stuff just got lost. And so I was just curious. But I think,
it does get lost. It does get lost. And actually what I want to talk about is like something I'm working on myself, realizing like, I think if you're a leader and you're a woman and you're powerful, and even for the men out there who also feel the same, I think ultimately you're able to hold more. You know what I mean? And what happens is that you're so used to holding more for other people, you forget to hold for yourself. Something that I'm trying to teach myself right now is learning to receive. The way that I am good to people, the way that I hold space for people, the way that even when I'm going through heartache, I've got friends and family calling me over something random that really bothers them. As I'm going through my own shit, right? But I'm learning that there's also the same people who have been like, the minute that me and my ex broke our engagement, it was like my whole tribe showed up. And everybody, I mean, I was getting like suicide watch calls from morning to night from all my friends and family. And it was like, are you okay? Are you still alive? Like, what's happening? And I'm learning to receive the support that I think I so freely give. And I think that's where leaders struggle. And I think it's like, because we can handle it, right? Because we're just like, well, I'll do this. Don't you worry. I got your back.
I got this. I got this. Let me take care of you.
Yeah. Let me take care of you. I'm so good at it. It's what I can do. That I'm just learning that sometimes I need the support. My friends, my very close friends all know that about me. They know that, like, hey T, what's going on? Like, they, they see me, right? Very much so. So, I'm learning to receive that. And it's been really nice. Kind of letting myself, with my resilience, stay in a place of, I can be nurtured too. I don't know. It's cool too. Like, I am uncomfortable with it.
Yeah. I think it's like the next level evolved, enlightened leadership is to be able to be so strong and resilient, and also be incredibly vulnerable and be able to just hold it all as a human. And I think that's where we're going. It's exciting.
I think you're absolutely right. No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's where, like, a lot of the femininity in life, whether you're man or woman, doesn't matter, but the feminine energy is coming to an enlightenment and a place of, wow, we can be soft and sensitive and use it as a power, and not necessarily have power come from strength and perseverance and aggression and assertiveness. It's like, it's funny because, like, it's so funny. I'm in the dating world again, right? So, like, I'm newly single and it's so wild. And I'm realizing, like, I don't even know how to operate in a casual manner because everything I do is so full. Like, I fully show up for people. I don't know how to be half. And I thought to myself, well, I just don't think I could ever be that. Even if it's just having a conversation over spaghetti. Like, we're fully having a conversation about spaghetti. Like, like, I am not half talking about it. I live life so fully. And so, I'm learning that that power is the power of femininity. It's like being so fully present in life and open to everything. I don't want to change that. So I'm learning, like, who deserves that energy from me. You know what I mean? Who deserves that vibrancy, that shine. And so it's been such a learning curve. Everything's a learning curve.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it so much. It's like, I'm envisioning you at a restaurant, like, just talking about all your spiritual stuff, and some of the men being like, like, what the hell is she talking about? But you're going to find, if you haven't already, you're going to get the ones, because you're willing to show up as all of you and have that kind of depth. You're going to find a man or a woman or whoever you're looking for, like, I'm assuming because you were engaged to a man, but I don't want to assume things about people.
Oh, you're so funny. Yeah. You never know. To be honest, like, when you're such a spiritual person, that's also something I found to be true, is I think people are awakening more and more that the concept of falling in love with the soul instead of just, like, the body or a certain gender or sex or whatever. But no, I am attracted to men. But the truth is that, I'm also just really looking for the depth, just like you said, right? Because if you're a deep person, and if you're a deep woman, if you're a conscious woman, you are looking for somebody who's going to hold space for that. And they don't have to be exactly like you, but I'll tell you, admiration goes a long way in a relationship. And I know you said you're married, right? And so I don't know if your husband really is a man, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think
also into men.
Okay. Also to men. So, so your husband, he may not be the same as you, or even, like, understand what you do. But if he respects it and admires it and adores you for what you bring to life, I mean, that's the game changer. You don't have to, I always say, you don't have to be into the same thing I am. And a lot of my women leaders who I see, it's like their men have no idea half the time, but the difference is how that man makes them feel about themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not about, are we both spiritual hippies? It's, can you hold space for what it is that I am? And really see me, you know? So that's been interesting, actually, now, like talking to different people and, you know, all that stuff. I'm like, there are people who make me feel admired, you know? They may not understand what I do, but they're like, oh, this is so interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But if they're like mean about it, or if they're rude or disrespectful.
Right. Sarcastic. Like, you out.
Yeah.
You out of here.
Yes.
I don't have time for that
exactly.
shit.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't
no
have time. Right. And it's funny because, you know, even being with my ex, and I don't really want to out him, he did hold space for me to grow into the woman that I am. And that's where I think, again, you need to experience relationships for what they are, even if they're the end goal isn't marriage. So it's so funny because I see this with my clients. I don't know if you see this with yours, but they're always like, who am I going to marry? And I'm like, what about who you're going to be in a fun dynamic with? What about who you're going to actually grow and heal with? What about those people? Because I want to experience that too. Like, those have been some of the funnest and most enriching times of my life. Anxiety provoking, sure, but also really fun and passionate. Like, you get all of it, right? But we're also looking for like that end game again, right? Like, who am I going to marry? And it's like, okay, so what happens when you're married, right? So I'm really trying, even now being in the single world, where I'm like, I just want to enjoy people. I want them to show me who they are and who they want to be in my life. You want to be part of my circle? Show me. You know what I mean? It's that simple. I don't know if we're going to get married. I don't know if you're going to have my children. But I think part of the issue is that we're always trying to like be like, well, okay, he's not marriage material, so no, I'm not going to talk to him. It's like,
right.
What are you getting out of it for now, though? Are you getting anything? If you're not getting anything, I get it. Don't waste your time.
Sure.
But if you're getting something, explore what it brings out in you. You know, I don't know what your guidance is for your people, but I generally,
you know, it's interesting. I know I don't typically end up working with people looking for relationships. I attract the ones that are already in marriages, and they're kind of working through, I mean, all kinds of different aspects, but a lot of them are doing some sort of awakening, and there's a dynamic, whether they're totally aware that it's a spiritual awakening or not. But I always say, like, your business is your spiritual baby, whether you realize it or not.
It is.
And and, you know, so people come to me working on business stuff, and then inevitably there's dynamics that show up in business with like business partners or with employees or team members that then reflects over. It's like, oh, I could see how this dynamic is playing out in my marriage as well. But a lot of times what we're working on is working through the, how can I expand? And also know that, like, some people aren't going to know what to do with that, and the fear of how they're going to react, and the fear of being rejected, and the actual real conflict that comes up. And I mean, I can speak to that too. Whereas, like, when I first started my awakening, you know, on a bigger level, my husband was kind of like, who are you? You know, I mean, he didn't say that to me. He is a wonderful, supportive husband. Like, I couldn't ask for anything better. But it did create a dynamic between us that took a lot of working through, because I was different, and because I was speaking in a different way, and I was showing up in a different way, and I was like owning my worth in a different way. And he was watching me own that worth in a different way. And it was triggering insecurity inside of him, as far as like, what is my role in this relationship? You know, she doesn't need this and this from me anymore. And anyway, so I work with people more in that department of like working through, as you change and grow, how does that relationship dynamic show up? So don't do a lot of relationship manifesting. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so interesting. See, I mean, and that makes sense, right? Because it's something you also went through. It's like that wounded healer, right? Like, I always say I'm a wounded healer. Like, I swear the universe brings me clients where it's like, I just went through this. Oh my God. Or I know, I'm sure you feel the same way, right? Yeah. Like, I just had to do this leveling up with my own partnership. And so now I'm able to help you through that leveling up or whatever,
Totally.
you're going through. So something that I have, because I have a deep fear of loss in this lifetime. So one of the big fears in this lifetime that I'm always working through is fear of loss. And, the more I have experiences and I work through things, it heals that other layer. But I always think I'm like, well, I'm always going to spiritually evolve and I'm a conscious person. What if that person doesn't evolve with me? And I always had that fear. Yeah. But the funny thing was that when it finally did actually end up happening to me, right, with George and I, where I thought we were going to end up, evolving together, ultimately kind of what you told me is like when you changed and you owned your worth, and when I changed and I owned my worth, I don't think my partner, my ex, really was willing to hold that space. Not because he didn't want to or love me enough, but I think he loved me so much to let me go because he wasn't able to. It's almost like, right, we do this kind of teeter totter. And what I see even in my clients and their dynamics, it's like, I'll see if they're like on different religious, spiritual wavelengths, like, we call like the evolutionary wavelength. And I'll see like, okay, there is potential for you guys to work through it. And I can see if there is. Sometimes I'm like, it's done. You guys got what you needed from each other. Let's just keep going. And so, which scares me because I still am very much a believer in love and love lasting forever. I've had to really learn that love may shift and end and change, but it's never gone. It's never lost. It never goes away. It just changes, So I don't know. Transformation to me is a lot of like relearning the same healing, the same thing. It's just another opportunity, just another layer. And then you just become more and more resilient or more and more bitter. You never know.
Right. Exactly. Could go either way. Could go either way.
Right. It goes either way. But I think that ultimately like something will push us forward. And usually if you're conscious, you're going to have another thing be like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? And I see it in my life, my clients' lives, my friends' lives. And I'm like, who lied to us and said that the end goal is just to get married? Because that's just really where the work begins, in my opinion.
I know.
Like these big things in our life, these big pivotal things, they just literally create more. They don't make it less. They just make it more. So I always said, with George, my ex, and even now, would like to still get married and have a child. But the thing is, I always said, to me, marriage isn't the end goal. Marriage is an agreement for us to consistently show up for each other. That's what it is to me. And when we stop doing that, that's when that stops.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. And we'll see how generations after us too, Kelly, I feel like how they get married. Do you have children?
I do. I have 3 boys.
You have 3 boys? How old are they?
I do. So my baby is 12 and I have a 14 and a 16. Yep. Almost 17.
Oh my God. Wow. That's amazing. I never have guessed you have 3 boys. You look very young. So I did not expect that you had so many. Like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Fabulous. It's all the energy. It's all the healing, I'm sure, right? Like
seriously,
just naturally vibrant.
Well, thank you.
But I think about that, I think about that and I just see like, okay, our kids as kids and their kids, like what is marriage and relationships going to mean to them?
I think it's different.
It's not like
it's seeing my kids. I mean, they're so much more, I mean, I hate to say it, but they're so much more woke. Like they really are than I was at that age. They are just, I don't know. People talk about these younger generations being lazy and like, they just whine about them not wanting to show up in the workplace. And I just see it completely differently. Sure that there's like a shadow aspect, I think, in some of that. But I think that they're like these younger generations are showing up to say, I don't want to do it like you fuckers did.
Right.
And
I agree. And you guys did this wrong.
They have that awareness that's like, this isn't what it has to be. Like I can find a career that I love. I don't have to have that same level of loyalty to something that is abusive. I don't, if this isn't reflecting back my worth, I can make a different choice and go somewhere else. And I think it's happening in career and in personal relationships in the same way.
Oh my God, it is.
My kids are so enlightened. It's crazy. I mean, they're still dumbasses sometimes, and I would tell them that to their face. So
I love it. I love it.
You're like, okay, mom, whatever.
Nice.
But yeah.
No, I think that, you know, and I, it's so funny because I love that you're also a conscious parent, because I love seeing women and men who so deeply see their kids, right?
Yeah.
Like they see their kids, they know who their kids are. They try to make the best decisions for their kids based on who their actual kids are. A lot of my clients, you know, we do work together, and I do human design. It's one of the modalities I use.
Oh, I'd love to talk about human design if you want to get into that.
Yeah.
But carry on.
No, but I'm just saying the human, like, so it's so funny. Like I'll have my clients and they'll be like, man, my one son and my one daughter and this and that. And I'm like, let's just take a look at what they're born to. And that's what I'm hoping that the next phase and wave of people, it's like, do you understand that we are not robots and everyone is a cluster of stars that came here to do something very different for whatever reason? Can we honor that? And I love that a lot of my clients, I don't know, I'm sure your clients would be the same. They're like, yeah, let's take a look. Like, you know, because they'll have, you know, 2 or 3 kids and they're so different. And like, I'll see right away, even without looking at their charts, like, you know, I'm doing the reading and I'm like, man, like your middle child is way like so old soul. Like I mean, you can't tell them what to do to save their life. Like you're like, there's so many things that we bring to the table that I just wish if more parents were open to seeing their children for who they are. And then from that young age, empowering them to be who they are. Do you know, it takes one person to believe in you, just one person. And it makes all the difference in the world for someone to be like, I see you. You don't need to follow the rules of society. You don't want to go get a corporate job. You don't want to go back to school. What is it that you want to do? Let me help you get there because I see you. You know what I mean? And I think it's hard because a lot of parents, and you probably went through this, where you see your other friends who are also parents and they're raising their kids in a certain way and they're going to certain schools and they're going to certain activities. And you're like, well, should I be doing that for my kid?
Yeah.
And it's like, it takes, what I love about looking at people's charts and understanding spirituality is that it gives you grace. It makes you look at your children, your spouse, your people as like, oh, you are your own person. It's just how you operate. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with the neighbors who want me to show up like a cookie cutter mom. It has nothing to do, like we all have different things we're bringing to the table. I love doing charts. When I found human design, actually, it changed my whole life. I completely left my old business. I completely left everything I used to do because I realized how like I was feeling my not self. Do you know what you are in human design?
Yeah, I'm a generator.
You're a generator. Okay, nice. So I'm a projector, and the not self for a projector is bitterness, and for the not self for you guys is frustration for generators.
Right.
And so I was feeling super bitter, and a friend of mine was like, Tia, like, have you looked into human design? I feel like you're a projector. And I'm like, why? She's like, you just seem so bitter. I was just not well. Yeah, I wasn't being myself. So anyway, it changed the game. So that's when I started studying it, took classes in it, and my whole life, like once I was really aware of like, okay, the way that I know I'm on the right track is I feel successful. I don't feel constantly burnt out. I don't feel like I'm over giving, overdoing. For a generator, you need to be really lit up by what you do, and it has to continuously light you up. Otherwise, you'll get drained more easily. You'll feel off track.
It is so true.
So true. And have you done like your husband? Have you done your kids? Have you seen how they all
Oh my
operate?
God, yes. Yeah. Actually, would you mind going through each of the types? Because I have been meaning to do an episode like on human design. And so I love that just came up. But if you would mind like going through the different types, I would love that. Are you good on time? I don't have anything right away. So
I don't have anything. Yeah, you're okay. We can talk about whatever you want.
Perfect. Cool.
So human design, just for those of you who are listening, who are like, what's human design? It basically is a system of energetics, and it's based on your time of birth, place of birth, and location of birth. And what it does is it shows you your energy, your conscious and unconscious energy, and how you're meant to operate in regards to making decisions, showing up in the world, how you receive and give energy. It's really, really, really helpful in knowing how to operate. And so there's 5 types of people in this world. They're generators, which are the builders of society, the doers. Kelly, you're a generator. So your aura is naturally open, magnetic, and inviting as long as you're doing what you're lit up and you feel lit up by. Okay. Those are the generators. They make 35% of the world. Then you have the manifesting generators, who are like the generators, except that their energy works quicker. It's more efficient. And to be honest, they are the creative doers who are meant to pivot. If something doesn't feel like that lights them up anymore, they need the freedom and expansion to go ahead and find something else that lights them up. Which is wonderful. They make up another 35%. Then we have projector. 20% of the world, we are considered non-energy types, meaning our gift is in how we see things and our systems and our efficiency. We're not meant to necessarily do. Our aura is very much focused and probing. So when somebody is with me, generally it feels like I'm looking into their soul because my energy is such a focused kind of energy. Then there's 10%, which is our manifestors, and they are the grand initiators. They're the people that are meant to go out there and follow their desire and urges. And when they have an urge, they're meant to start something, not necessarily be the ones to like complete the project. That's where the generators and the manifesting generators come in. But the manifestors are our natural leaders in some way who come in. Their energy is what we call closed and repelling. It sounds bad, but it's not. It just means like, get out of their way. They're going to start the show and they're there to kind of rock and roll. The reflectors, they make up literally 1% of the world. I only have like 3 or 4 reflector clients. And they're wonderful, but they are our grand mirrors, I call them. They really reflect back to us like what the world needs, and they sample energy at their core. So they are very changeable and mutable, and they can go into spaces and somebody could perceive them as one thing and go into a different space and be perceived as another thing. But they are really here to mirror back to us. So anyway, the whole idea of the human design system, which I love, is like you get to know people and you don't necessarily take things personally as much. So I'll give you an example. My manifesting generator friends, I have a lot of them. I love them to death. When they are lit up, man, because they have the biggest battery, they have the biggest energy source. We call that sacral energy than all the types. So fun to be around them. But let me tell you, they can be kind of flaky. And that's okay, because again, they're meant to pivot their energy wherever it like needs to be.
Really fast.
Yes. Okay. And that's okay. I've accepted it. I know one of my very close friends, she probably won't text me for 6 days, not because she doesn't love me, but simply because she's got stuff going on. She got distracted. She's doing her own thing and boom. Oh yeah, I got to text Tia back. You know what I mean? Whereas my generators, I love them because I find them to be very consistent energetically. If you're lit up by something, I know like you'll be doing the same thing over and over again. Like that's my generator people. And my projector people, they're the ones that I swear to God, if I ever need somebody to like share something with me, I ask them. And because they'll be like, oh, this is what I see, Tia, straight up.
Totally.
So anyway, that's what I found. What have you found?
No, I can relate to all that. I freaking love human design. And I found it probably, I don't know, I think it maybe has been like 4 or 5 years ago now. And I kind of like was introduced and was like, whoa, okay, this feels like really legit. And then I kind of like leave it for a while and then I'll come back to it and go deeper with it in my own chart, and then started running charts for my clients. And
love it.
I truly believe I was led to human design because of my family dynamics for exactly what you're talking about. It's like, I now feel like I understand why not everybody's energy works like mine, and I give them permission to be who they are. I have my oldest son is a manifestor. My youngest son is a generator, and my middle son is a reflector. And get this, my husband's a Manny-Gen. But my sister, my oldest sister, is also a reflector. So when I realized that and I started understanding how their energy works and why, especially the reflectors in my family, it was like, oh, and then having a manifestor for a son who like you don't tell that kid what to do. He's like very self-sufficient. He wants to do things his own way. It's just been like the most amazing gift. I also found that my mom is a manifestor too. So anyway, it's just learning.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like just learning the basic types, I feel like was life-changing. And, like you said, just giving them permission to be who they are. But then I keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And now I'm like seeing how to use it for business and specific leadership things and finding shadow aspects. And it's just, I'm so fascinated with it.
I know. I loved it. I love it just as much. I incorporate it. Like I do human design readings, but I generally just like to use it to incorporate, like if I have like a lot of my leaders, for example, a lot of them are manifesting generators. And so letting them know that it's okay to be part of multiple projects at the same time because they can't stay put. They need like they just need something that allows them to pivot a little bit so they can feel like their energy disperses in a way that feels like life-giving for them.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like so many of my Manny Gen clients like kind of have some self-loathing issues around the fact that they want to change all the time. And, like that's the biggest thing because they're deeply disappointed in themselves always because of that. And so, I love being able to give them that same gift and be like, no, this is actually energetically correct for you.
Oh my God, that's exactly. And it's so funny because I recently did a little reading for a friend of mine. And I was telling him, I was like, you just need to allow yourself to be okay with not being lit up by some things and being okay with pivoting. Like you said, it is like, I have seen them being like, everyone tells me to stick to the same thing. And I'm like, that's not for you. That's from a generator perspective. That's society is built on the generator perspective of like, if you just stay with it, it's going to work. It should be your thing. And that's conditioning. And then we know that now, right? For those of us who are in the awakened world, I would say like that's something that maybe worked 50 years ago. Maybe there were a lot more generators at the time. And that is like what really lit up and created, built the community because you guys are the builders. But honestly, I know how you feel because I started to feel like my projectors always feel like they're never doing enough and are always like, well, I can't keep up. And I felt that way myself. That's why it led to my bitterness. I was completely burnt out. And then I also have my manifestors who I have a lot of manifestor women who have a lot of self-esteem issues because they have so much power and they're able to be so dynamic, but they feel bad for it because they haven't been in the place to be supportive. Right. Or they were always told like, you can't tell people what to do. My goddaughter is a manifestor and her mom's a generator. And so I say to my generator friend, I said, listen, she's going to tell you what she wants. You don't even know to do anything. She's like, and you know this, Kelly, like with your son, like they're just going to, they're going to point and that's what they're going to want. Like, that's it. Yep. And she's like, but I've had to tell her like, she's not the boss and she's 2 years old. I'm like, yes, but she is the boss. So you need to just let her, like, I'm sure your son's that way too, where it's like, you can't even control them. You don't even try. Why try? Just let them do what they want. Like,
yeah, it's really been an interesting parenting dynamic, especially because last year he got his driver's license. And so there was this whole next level of like him wanting to expand and do whatever he wanted. And me kind of as a parent being like, oh my God. And knowing he's a manifestor, like, how do I let him have his freedom and still give him healthy boundaries and know that like, there are still things that you do have to listen to your mother. So it's just been an interesting thing to tease out with a manifestor, but I'm just so glad that I know that about him. And so I can support him and I can support him in those unique ideas and in that leadership and say, yeah, like that is your energy. That's how you're meant to operate.
It's so powerful. And especially since your son is of the age where he can hear it, right? Like you can tell him like, hon, you need this, and this. Like, I don't know. I mean, I hope the world changes where we could like literally teach this in high schools. Like, can you imagine if in high school or even grade school, you knew like, oh, like I'm not meant to keep up in this way. Like, that's not for me. That's for them. Okay, I'm not lit up by the idea of college. So why am I going to spend $300,000 on a degree that I have no interest in, not even for 5 seconds. Right. Like, I don't know. I think it probably won't be in our kids' generation. It'll probably be in our kids' generation, where that may even be an idea. But no, and I've asked, some of my clients have asked me if I would take human design to schools, and I was like, I would. I don't even know where I would start with that, because first I'm trying to hit the corporate scene with it, right? Because I think it really helps women in leadership. But yeah, kids. I mean, I don't know. It would be so helpful for parents and the kids knowing. And I don't know. I'm just all for the enlightenment of just be yourself. Stop trying to be somebody else. It's really exhausting. And it's exhausting to watch, I'm sure, as a parent, where you're trying to be like, don't compare yourself, honey. And now with social media, I can't even imagine. Like,
it's the real deal. This parenting gig is, it's tough.
Bless you. I'm not there yet. So, yeah, I don't have any experience. Hopefully I will at some point in time, but not right now. And maybe by then, like, a lot of the babies that are being born, they say now, are even more like old soul, enlightened. Like, they're not willing to, they don't have the patience for the systems that don't work anymore.
Nope, you're right.
So,
okay, I want to cycle back, because I keep meaning to ask. So we talked about Ainsley McLeod, and I talked about the instruction a little bit on a different podcast that I did. I don't even remember which one right now, but I know that I've mentioned him and the different soul levels we've talked briefly about. So are you okay with sharing? I would guess that you're probably a mini transformer. That would be my...
You're so funny. Oh my God, that's very interesting. A transformer. I'm actually, I'm not surprised you guessed that. I'm actually a main spiritualist with a primary leader type. So that is why.
Okay. Yeah. I said mini transformers. So that, like, performer, spiritualist, leader, that trio.
That trio. Yeah. So, Ainsley himself in our readings has not called me that. I've read his books, though, to know that, like, that can be the whatever. No, yeah, I am definitely a main spiritualist, primary leader type. And I do have performer in there. I have creator. I have helper. I have those. What else do I have? I think that's it. Creator, performer, helper. Yeah. And then I'm a soul level 10, 80% through.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't surprise me. Have you done a reading
with him?
Yes, I did. Okay. Like this time last year. Yeah. So nice. I'm also the primary spiritualist, spiritualist, primary leader with secondary performer. So yeah, he did say that, like, mini transformer, but I like just your energy. I'm like, you've got the same thing going on. So could just tell.
I love it. No, yeah. I love it. Yeah. I love him. I love them. It's crazy the way that we met. So I found Ainsley's in January of 2020, before COVID hit. I found his, his YouTube interview with Oprah. And I said, oh my God, this guy knows everything he was saying. I was like, I've always felt and I've always known to be true. Bought his books, got into them. Lo and behold, the Old Souls guidebook is my birthday. That's when he launched it. And I was like, what is this? Like, my favorite book? Like, what the hell? So I was like, okay. And then one day, Christine, his wife, added me on Instagram. And I remember the day because I was next to my ex-fiance now. And I screamed in the car because I was like, oh my God, why? Why? You know what? I was like, it was like my celebrity crush's wife adding me on.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I love them so much. And I was like,
right.
And then we started chatting, me and her, and we, like, connected right away. And it was just super easy. And we loved each other. And then I finally got a reading with Ainsley, and then that was great. And then me and Christine ended up still being friends all these, like, the last couple of years. And we just built this really great friendship with both of them. And, you know, I visited them where they live, and we just are such soul family. Like, I love them. I love them. Like, they are my people. But it's just so funny. It's like, I love what Ainsley's done because he's so down to earth about what he's shared with people and what he, what he knows to be true. And you know it, like, you can't, honestly, what he has shared, anybody that's an old soul spiritualist gets it. I feel like it's just, oh yeah, I remember that. Yep. Like, I don't doubt anything he's ever said. Like, I feel it.
I agree. I agree. My experience was exactly the same. I found him through Oprah because I listened to the Super Soul podcast, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, every single word he's saying, I'm like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Uh-huh. Yep. yep, that makes sense. So I did the same. I got his books, and I mean, my experience has been just so similar, but I feel like the old souls, it's a feeling. It's like, it's a knowing that for me, it was like, now I can get behind this. There's so much stuff I read where I'm like, I don't know. It feels like there's some truth to that, but there's, I like take little pieces out of it and then throw the rest to the side. But I pretty much like just everything in those books feels so, so, so true to me.
100%. And you're right. I'm the same. Like some people love Eckhart Tolle and they love some of these other spiritual teachers of some sort. And there are some things I read on like Eckhart and all these other ones that I'm like, oh, that's great. Like I can resonate with some of the things, but some of it is also, just doesn't connect the same to me. It's also the same way I feel about when I go on Instagram. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I'll go on Instagram and somebody will be, how do I say this? They'll be spreading like some spiritual knowledge. And then I go to see a video of them versus like a post. And I'm like, there's something so disconnected with this person. Yes. And I cannot like, I feel like a machine is talking to me, but the wisdom that was shared, there's a disconnect and I can't explain it. So, and it's funny because in one of the first readings Ainsley did for me, he was like, you are not a level 9 soul. Like you are a level 10. Some of this, and without even knowing me, like I didn't talk at all. Like I talk a lot, Kelly, obviously I didn't talk at all in that first session. And
I was the same. I was like, I just want to hear everything you have to say. Like, I didn't say anything. I almost felt like it was weird for him. Like he was like, she's not talking.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else do you need to tell me?
Like what? Yeah. You're like a little kid.
Totally.
But the thing is, I was just like, yeah, I'm not like really a level 9, which is a lot of level 9s are the people that maybe do the spiritually bypassing that are like love and light. Like we just need to be great because they're still kind of learning and whatever. Nothing wrong with them. They're great people. It's not that. It's just like, that's where I was like, I had such a block around spirituality. And even I've been invited to like spiritual conferences to talk, and I would go to them and I was like, y'all are nuts. I'm not even trying to be hateful. I'm just like, you are not my people. Like, I don't know, like what drugs you're taking and what's happening and why you think this is reality, but this is not reality. I always say I bridge the subconscious and the conscious. Like I am a big like reality person. And I think level 10 souls, you're level 10, I'm assuming, because I can feel it. It's the groundedness that I see and feel. So it's like, oh, like you're so old that you're just like retired. That's how I feel. Like, I'm like, I get it now. I know what it is. There's no fluff to it. There's no sexiness to any of this. Like there's none. Like, but yeah, I love them. And I mean, I literally bought his books for people. Like I've sent them to my clients.
I have
too. I just, for people that know and understand and are open to it, I just have so much love for them. They know too. So I'm such a weirdo.
And for people that are just listening that maybe haven't heard the other podcast, so Ainsley McLeod wrote The Instruction and The Old Souls Guidebook. And is there another one too? Those are the two that I have.
Yeah, the two I have is that The Transformation I haven't gotten my hands on. He doesn't have as many like copies of that, I suppose. I think you can buy it on Amazon maybe. But they have it, like, I think something with the publication and them having it available. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And he talks about past lives and how those past lives are still influencing, our day-to-day life now and what fears may come from past lives and the different soul levels. And, I mean, for anybody, like if that lights you up at all, then go check it out. Cause it's just, I feel like it was life-changing, but it was like, it was almost like a deep sigh of relief. Like, okay, like this finally fucking makes sense.
That's exactly how I felt. I felt seen. I think that's what it is. If you're an old soul and you've been curious, or you're like, you don't even know if you identify as an old soul, right? Because I get a lot of those women who are like, I feel different, but I don't know what this is, and blah, blah, right? They don't know.
Yeah.
You read Ainsley's stuff and and I'm part of his Soul World community as well. And like, you get it. It's like the language, it's like you're speaking the same language. You know what I mean? People like us, we can't go to the grocery store. And maybe now it's more open, right? But there was a time where I was like, is somebody talking about astrology? Like what? Like it wasn't, like you felt like the weirdo in the room. And I still feel like the weirdo. Sure. I live in Chicago. So, and I'm sure for you living in the Midwest as well, you're like, okay, this is not as common, right?
But, right. I finally have found, like for anybody that feels like that, eventually you do start to find your tribe of people. And it's like, the more you show up as the weirdo, the weirdos come out of the woodwork. So there's hope. You'll find them, because now it's funny. Sometimes I forget even, and this goes back to something you said, like early in the conversation, like, sitting at dinner and, being all of who you are. But like, I forget sometimes because I'm so used to talking like this now, because I have so many friends and I interview people for the podcast that are like this. But like every once in a while I'll go to like a Christmas party and it's like a friend of a friend, I'm there, but it's not like my tribe of people necessarily. And I'm talking the same way. And like, I just forget, like, I forget that people, they literally glaze over and like it's like, they don't understand what I'm saying at all. Like it, and I laugh about it now. That used to trigger the crap out of me, because I would be like, oh my God, I went too far. I shouldn't have said that. I offended somebody, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now I just will like laugh and be like, oh, I just forgot and lost them. And that's okay. Then I like get a little more grounded and, I don't necessarily rein it in, but it just doesn't trigger me in the same way. But you'll find your people. For everyone listening.
Yes, I love that thank you for saying that, because you will find your people. And it's so funny because Ainsley was like, Tia, like, because of the spiritualist and the leader type, like you have to have a podcast or a YouTube channel. And like, I've had so many blocks around it for some reason. And I don't know about you. I think it's because I'm a projector. So I like to be invited. Mm-hmm. And I want to share with people that actually want to hear. Like, talking at myself or to myself is not exactly sexy for me. Like, it's like, I don't care to like, just, but it's so funny. Like, I think part of what Ainsley was telling me in our first session was that if you speak up about who you are, you will find your tribe. And I know in this lifetime, I'm meant to, like, just like you are, probably pave some form of way for people to find like us and each other and come together. So yeah, you will find your people. It was, I have so much gratitude for Ainsley and them, because even though like I was already on the spiritual journey for years before I found them, it made it relatable for me. It made it like, oh, I could actually do this for work. Cause I never thought I'd be doing this either. Right. Like, are you kidding? Right. I come from a Greek traditional family. Like, imagine in Chicago, like having to explain to people what I do for work. They're like, what do you do? You know what I mean? It's like exactly what you said. Yeah. You're in like, you're going to somebody's house and they glaze over. You're like, okay, good talking to you. And then like, I just keep moving.
Yeah.
I just, but then there's other people that they're like, wait, what, Tia? Like, I'm so into that stuff.
Yes.
Oh my God. Like you can do that. And I'm like, they're like, it's like, I just outed them. You know what I mean? We just out each other. Like
I love that feeling so much too. Like when you say something and and somebody's like, oh my God, I'm into that too. And you're, I just love that. I'm like, yes. Yeah. And I'm almost like addicted to it. And I think that's part of why I like just talk about whatever with anyone. Cause when those people are like, they'll send you a message later and they're like, so when you were talking about that, I totally am into that too, but nobody knows. I'm like, welcome.
I know you feel like you outed. I always say I came out of the spiritual closet. And so that's how it felt like when having to tell people, and like, especially because I came from the corporate world, from the beauty world, where it's like, it was just, but you do love that feeling because you find your people, you find your weirdos. And that is, I like live for it. It's like, and it's funny because I'm noticing it in men more. So I don't know about you, but like, because I deal with mostly women, but now that I'm in the dating world again, I am noticing it also with men that
she's single.
Yeah. No, but I just feel like, holy shit. Like, I think there are men that are even more in the closet that don't share it. And then like, I've had guys be like, I watch your stories and your Instagram stuff, and I don't even know if I know what you're talking about, but like, I feel it. And it's like this, because again, they're not really like, buddies of mine from high school that I know and like stuff like that. They're like, and so I just like, I think obviously old souls are both men and women, right? But I'm really excited for the conscious man. And I know that we're in this really crazy time where the men are really being challenged to grow and shift. Really challenged to grow and
So
shift.
true.
Because women are just doing it. We're doing it. We've been doing it. And I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So that's been fun too to see. Because I'm like, oh, there
I
are like
bet.
actually good guys out there who
Oh
are
yeah.
not like just talking about sports the whole time. I mean, I love sports too, but like,
yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I don't personally love sports. I love when a man is passionate about sports too, because I like what they're passionate about.
Yep.
But it's not just that. Like they have depth. It's the depth, you know? So
I love what you said
for the world
a while ago about like, somebody doesn't have to be exactly like you. So my husband we have grown through this a lot, and he's much more spiritual, I think, than he gives himself credit for, but he's married to me. So he doesn't really have a choice on some level, you know, like
exactly.
It's normal conversation to talk about angels and guides and tarot cards. And, you know, like, he was trying to make a decision about something, and he was like, "Hey, will you pull some cards for me?" You know, I mean, he's yes, he's in. But he's very different. He's a much more, I would say, much more grounded person. And he's more, I don't want to say worldly, but we're really good balance in that way because we're different, you know? And I think I went through not a big span of time, but a short span of time where I was worried that he wasn't going to be able to keep going on this journey with me, because it just felt so outside of how we were operating before. You know, it was scary for both of us, I think. But now we've really settled into, like, I think I got maybe a little too far out there and wasn't really appreciating the like real world for a while. And maybe even a little bit like snobby about like spiritual snobbery. You know what I mean? Like you see that out there a lot too on the Insta.
Yes.
But you know, like I'm so above that. And I think we've like kind of settled in, like he's really reaching spiritually and I've like kind of settled back in. And you don't have to find somebody exactly like you. Like, I'm really glad I'm not married to a hippy dippy spiritualist like myself. You know, I really am.
I agree with you. I mean, my ex George, like, I mean, a wonderful guy. Actually, Ainsley had done a reading for me and kind of shared with me about George, who he was. And he's actually a main leader type and a primary spiritualist. So we were reversed, right? So it's like funny with George, like I always felt like he grounded me very well. So I never felt like I needed to be with like a hippie by any means. I was okay with being with somebody who was grounded and very like down to earth and like but like was open to spirituality. Like that's important to me. Like, because otherwise it's not only do I feel like I'm speaking a different language to you, but you're not even receptive. Right. Like, and I'm realizing that now, even like in the dating world, right? Like I'm not really dating anyone, but you talk to people, you get to know people, you're more open now, right? When you're not in partnership. And so talking to some men where I'm like, wow, you're a great guy, but you don't have the depth. So it's like, I don't need you to be a guru or a spiritualist. I need you to just be willing to hold space and admire me and appreciate me. And I will love you for that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what you're saying about you and your husband. It's like, you don't need somebody to talk the language. You just need somebody to be like open and receptive. And you know what, even though George and I didn't last, like he was such a beautiful space for me to be who I was and to grow into who I am. And he saw me through all of the stages. Like Kelly, he met me when I was just in corporate makeup and did the makeup stuff. And then when I lost my job, he was there with me through all of it. And he really, I mean, that's why I have so much gratitude for him, because he was able to hold that space, right? And he didn't have to be like pull cards every day. But you know what? When we were looking for a house, he would be like, okay, the number of the house is 2, 5, 6, 7. Right. And then I would add the numbers up because I wanted to see the numerology of it. And he like humored me, right? So it's like, you don't always need like, you don't need somebody to be like, a healer like you. But, you want somebody who's like honoring that part, especially if you're a conscious woman. I mean, there's no other way. Like, so I love that about George, and that's why I can't hold anger as much as I'd like to. Sometimes you're like, man, just break up and be angry so you can get over it, and it's like I don't really operate that way, but I just going into my next partnership, I hope that somebody can like level up with me, hold that space and level up. And it seems like you and your husband, when even with the moments of like, okay, we're kind of going like teetering a little bit, you know, he leveled up. It's like you just keep doing you just keep doing the dance.
I think we both did. Yeah, I think we both did. So it's just, I love that you say we just need depth. I think that's such a simple way to say it. It's like, my husband is incredibly deep, and, you know, we'll sit down and just like talk things through. And we just talk all the time now about how like we'll meet people, and it's just, you can just feel energetically. And he speaks in the language of energy now. And, you know, so you'll like meet people and is like, there just wasn't like a deeper energy. And I'm like, yes. I also joke, I'm like, if anything happens to me, you know, he like jokes about wanting like a normal woman. And I'm like, whatever, dude, you'd be so bored. After me, you would be so bored. So bored. And he's like, I know you're right. Like you need a witch. Okay. Just settle in and accept it.
Can I ask you, what is your zodiac sign? What's his?
So I'm an Aquarius and he's a Leo.
Oh, I love that. Great balance. Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Okay, nice. Well, yeah, I just, you know, as an Aquarius, you're always going to, you know, do your own thing and beat to your own drum. And the weirdness is what what people attract to you for. The Aquarians are always the ones that are like kind of paving the way for their own communities. It's generally what that is. And then you got the Leo that as long as you make him feel good about himself, he'll feel good about you. I'm sorry, it's part of Leo energy. Love my Leos, love my Aquarius. I have so many in my life. But that's great. I'm glad that you guys have that, you know, and I really believe that exists. You know, everyone's like, you know, worried about me because, you know, this is so recent, but ultimately I'm such a hopeful romantic, I should say. Like, I really believe that we have multiple soulmates. And I tell this to my clients too. We really do. They will bring out different things in you. They'll hold space for you in different ways. And I'm really excited, you know, and I'm realizing like, you know, you just realize how, like, I am looking for someone who's willing to do it with me, do life with me, you know, with the witchy person that I am, you know, like, just like, you're like, oh, you'd be so bored if you had like, what is it called? You know, like not a mogul, like what is it? A regular person? Not a witch, they call like the people, like
a muggle.
A muggle. That's what it is. Yes. Yes.
Muggle life is not for Chris anymore. No. He would be so bored.
He would be so bored. And he's lucky to have you. So that's he just has to remember that.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes. Well, this has been so fun. I feel like we could keep going forever, but I'll let you get back to your day. But it's been so nice meeting you. And
you too.
I appreciate your time. And I do follow you on Instagram. And I love everything you're doing. Like I said, I was like, you have that mini transformer energy about you. That's just very natural. And I would just say, keep doing what you're doing. And I really feel like you showing up as all of you, the right person is going to manifest. And the advice I give to anybody, so like the thing I have said forever since I've met my husband was, it literally took the moment of me truly being over it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do life by myself. I'm going to date a bunch of guys. I really was. I was like, I'm going to like date a bunch of guys though, you know, like if somebody wants to take me out to dinner, sure, I'll go, you know, but it was like truly the moment of like, I want to be single and enjoy being single. And then I manifested this like most amazing man. And then he was like, I want you to be my girlfriend. And I was like, I really like you, but I don't want a boyfriend.
Oh my God.
That lasted like a day. And I was like, never mind. I like you. Let's do this. So anyway.
Well, that makes me happy. And it's funny because I agree with you. It's like the minute that you surrender it, you stop like attaching and grasping, which I'm kind of coming back from, you know, being in a relationship that's attachment. So like, it was really hard for me to recalibrate into like just talking to people, because I'm so used to like the care and the compassion of a partner versus like the casualness of like just getting to know somebody. So I had to kind of recalibrate. But I agree with you. I used to say when I actually, George and I were friends before we dated, and the universe kept bringing us together. So like I would try to avoid him, and I'd end up going somewhere and he'd be there, and I'd be like, what are you doing here? Like, we are not like this. So, I mean, it happened so many times, Kelly, I couldn't make it up. And so, but when I finally let it go, because I was like, he's not making a move. This is not happening. There's a whole other drama besides what I'm telling you on top of it all. But the minute I let it go, it's like it started knocking on my door. And it's like from the day one we were together. So I told my clients the same thing. It's like your soulmates and the people that are really meant to be with you, like you can't force the moment, but it's like really the minute, like I love your advice. It is the minute you like kind of surrender it. And you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna, like, you want to be in my life, be like I told you earlier, but if you want to be in my circle, the door is always open. Like I love people, great. If you don't want to be in my circle, the door is there. You see it. Like there's not like a spot. Like I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to beg you to stay. So I love your advice. That's great for me to hear, because I do hope, you know, I really hope my biggest thing is that somebody can see me in all my glory and decide to stay. I don't want to scare them. And I think not that I would do anything to scare them. I don't want a coward. I think I'm working through a lot of like, you know, what me and George had was wonderful, but ultimately like he didn't follow through on his promises to me. And so I think like I'm just, as much as he thought he would, he was being honest, or he thought he was, ultimately I just need somebody who is going to show me that they're willing to stay, even when, you know, life is changing and moving and growing. Because I think I am a mini transformer. I think I am transformation is the name of my life, I think. And same thing with you. It's like, I don't know how else to be. So thank you for sharing that about Chris and you, because
yeah, you're welcome.
I'm a hopeful romantic person, and I believe in love. Yes. So, and I don't want to change that about myself. So
yeah, no, definitely not. Well, this has been incredible. I really appreciate you. Where can people find you, or how do they, if they want to book a session? Oh, and I meant to ask this. Do you typically do like standalone sessions, or do you work with people over time? How does that work?
So because I teach people to trust themselves, I do standalone sessions. And then if they want to work with me more consistently, they are happy to book anytime. So there's no like program or anything like that, at least not now. Because every time I've tried to make one, the universe has like, it's been so funny. My files have been deleted. It's like, it's really,
oh God, yeah.
Like, okay, no joke. It's like crazy stuff. So they can find me, they can do a session. If they choose to work with me longer term, they can always do that, but I leave it in their hands. So, yeah. And they can find me at tiaruss.com and then at tiarussofficial on Instagram. So
perfect.